WCW Spring Stampede 1997. Some people might know the show for the legendary DDP versus Macho Man match. Others might know it for something else. Hulk Hogan, we coming for you, fella. Or whatever. But we're in 97 WCW. There's a lot of good stuff. The Cruiserweights are here. The Horsemen are here. Stevie Ray is fighting for the world title. We got a lot of things to cover in so little time. So let's get right into it, baby. Let's get into the Apron Bump podcast.
And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started.
What is up, everybody? Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome to the Apron Bump podcast. I, of course, am your host, the hardest part of the ring. How are we doing, everybody? Hope everybody had a lovely, lovely holiday season, whatever it is you celebrate. And hope everyone's having a lovely new year. New year, new us. Come on. Come on now. It's been forever since I dropped an episode. It was like a year ago. I'm sleepy. Let's go. Let's fucking. We got some WCW on deck for you guys today. Spring Stampede 1997 coming at you from Tupelo, Mississippi, of course. Of course it is. Got a lot of good stuff on this show. Like I mentioned in the cold open there. DDP and Macho Man in the main event. Hell yeah, doggy. Inject that directly into my veins. We talk all about the feud, the match itself, of course. We also got Rey Mysterio, Ultimo Dragon. We got Dean Malenko, Chris Benoit. Prince Iaukea still champion for whatever reason. The women's title's on the line. It's like a 4-leaf clover up in this bitch. And of course, all of the ridiculous promos and perhaps infamous promos on this show, which we'll dive into, of course. But yeah, a lot of good stuff on here. The NWO's rolling. Let's get into it, baby. But first, before we get into the actual episode, let me give a big old juicy shout out to my guests, Snead and Chad from the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast, joining me on this show. Check out the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff. All their information will be in the description below. Really entertaining group of guys that cover a lot of the current products. They do debates. Gets pretty fun. I've had the pleasure of being a guest on their show a few times. That's always a hoot. So go check that out. If nothing else, go check out those shows. Dip your toes in the water. It's a good old time. Love the Turnbuckle Tavern. Go check them out. Follow them on all the social medias. Follow me as well at Apron Bump on X, Instagram. I'm still trying to use Blue Sky. I keep forgetting, but Blue Sky is not in my it's not in my zeitgeist yet. But you can find me on TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff. And what else? Hey, if you like this type of episode, maybe you're just listening for the first time. Maybe you like WCW. Maybe you like this era of wrestling in general. Well, I have good news for you, hypothetical listener. I cover it all, baby. I started from WrestleMania 10, and I've covered every single WWF, WCW, and ECW show from that point on up to where we're at now, spring of 97, all chronologically. Most of this stuff I'm watching for the first time, so you get a first, like a fresh eyes on these shows, a raw reaction, and it's a good old time. I've had a lot of great guests from various podcasts and whatnot to join me on this endeavor. So go to apronbump.com. You can go to the episodes tab, and you can select Wrestling Wars in the 90s, and that'll bring you to all of those episodes that I have covered chronologically, or you can go into the link in the description to take you there. Speaking of Wrestling Wars of the 90s, make sure you stay tuned to the end of the episode, where the hardest promotion of 1997 battle continues, where we pit these three companies against each other. We look at the best, the worst, who's doing good, who's not doing so good, pay-per-view quality, in-ring, out of ring. We look at all the criteria. There's points associated to everything. And we're doing it at this point in time in 97. So we're doing it after every episode. We look at it and we see where we're at as of, what is this, March, April of 97, whatever it is. We'll get into it. So stay tuned to the end of the episode. Whichever company has the most points at the end of the year will receive a purchase of a championship belt from yours truly. As you can see by the Intercontinental title behind me, WWF was the hardest in 96. Who will be the hardest in 97? Well, I think I said it 3 times already, but stay tuned to the end of the episode. Wow, I had a cigar for the first time in a while, like 2 days ago, and my mouth just feels sticky. Do I sound sticky? Do I look sticky? Well, I hope so. Anyways, I think I've lollygagged enough. Let's get to the episode, shall we? WCW. Spring Stampede, 1997, with myself and Snead and Chad from the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast. Glad you guys could hop on here, talk some WCW.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man.
Here it's y'all's. Because Snead, you watched WCW as a kid, right?
Oh, yeah, that was kind of that's all we got here.
Yeah, Chad was just mentioning that WWE never really went to West Virginia.
We never, if we got a house show, it was in a town that was probably 45 minutes to an hour away. And when I was a kid, my parents just really weren't going to drive that. So I was lucky to get them to drive to 10 minutes down the road to see it.
Yeah. Right. They didn't want to drive hours to go see Duke the Dumpster Drosy and Flash Funk. Is what you're telling me?
Yeah, I don't think, the Abe Knuckleball Schwartzes of the world, we weren't going to get to see him. So
right.
I mean, and we were getting WCW really catered to our area because even our local strip mall, they were having 1992 Flying Brian was doing an autograph signing there. So when we were 6, 7, 8 years old, you were meeting all of those guys in the early 90s before Nitro even kicked off. So it was kind of bred into the area. If you were a wrestling fan, the grocery stores carried the WCW magazine. So it was everything was catered to WCW around here.
And we had what it was called the Fox 11 Kids Expo. And every year we'd have WCW wrestlers would come and sign autographs. So I met Harlem Heat their rookie year there.
Wow. When they were still Kane and Cole.
Kane and Cole,
yeah.
But who else? There was Public Enemy was there. Johnny B. Bad was there.
Ooh. Z-Man.
I met him at a Go-Mart gas station. Here. I mean,
that just feels right for whatever reason. I feel like Z-Man belongs there.
It was when he was with Johnny Gunn. It was Z-Man and Johnny Gunn. They were doing, and I remember that's the first day I ever knew what a compact disc was, because the radio station that sponsored it was giving away stuff, and my mom won a Joey Lawrence CD. I'll never forget that.
Joey. So this might be our generation gap. Who is Joey Lawrence? Can you inform?
Joey Lawrence, wasn't he on a sitcom called Blossom? Snead?
He had his catchphrase was "Whoa." That was
Man, you're really selling me on Blossoms. Let me tell you, I'm about to go fire up my VHS.
Blossom, if you're a fan, if you watch Big Bang Theory, it was Mayim Bialik who was on Big Bang Theory as Sheldon's girlfriend. So,
yeah, and Joey Lawrence was one of those dudes that showed up on those Teen Beat magazines that little girls bought that had all the young hip teenage actors. He was one of those dorks.
Well, speaking of sitcoms, there was a little tidbit in this show that the commentary mentioned that I had never heard of. Apparently, Rey Mysterio may have dated Jennifer Aniston for a second.
I didn't know about that either.
I've heard that, I recently heard that, and then when it popped up on commentary, I was like, holy shit, I don't remember that at the time I was watching it, but that has kind of became like an urban legend where I guess they were at some sort of red carpet thing, and she said something nice about Ray, and that's I would never have guessed Jennifer Aniston would have dated Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, when they said Rey was dating a friend, like she was like maybe the fourth friend that I would have guessed. You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, she goes from Rey Mysterio to Brad Pitt. Like, seems odd.
I mean, Rey's a handsome man.
He is.
That height, man. Well, apparently, so I looked into it a little bit. I guess Rey recently kind of debunked it on Logan Paul's podcast. I guess they were friends, though. And
they were friendly, yeah.
The big thing is that Rey let her see him without his mask. That was pretty tawdry.
Now, is that a little veiled innuendo, or is he actually talking about the mask?
She unmasked me slowly. Yeah, I don't know. That's actually, you know what? I got to dive back into it because I may have missed it. That's why I bring you guys in, because that's the insight that the Turnbuckle Tavern brings to you, everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, let's stampede into this bad boy. Speaking of which, Spring Stampede, 1997. Did you both get a chance to check out this little ditty?
I did.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Overall thoughts? I'm assuming it's been a while since you've seen it. Just overall thoughts before we dive into the individual shenanigans and whatnot.
It was interesting to go back and watch now, because when I was a kid watching it, I mean, we were in the thick of it. You know, that was a week to week thing. You know, you never missed a Nitro, and so I was very entangled in those storylines then. But going back and watching it, I don't really remember the storylines that were going on at the time outside of the couple of real big main things.
The main event, yeah, that was a big one.
Like I remember that. But you know, going back and watching it, it was a fun nostalgia watch.
Yeah, Spring Stampede, it was never like tent pole pay-per-view, you know, destination. I always think of Halloween Havoc, Starrcade, the big ones, but just the overall thought on this was like, man, I miss cheap, low budget entrances, like the Western town facade with the shitty cactus and the
plastic cows,
and the covered wagon on the end. Wrestling companies need to bring that back, because it's like you don't want too much production and too classic. Like the opening of the pay-per-view, when they just open, you know, the title cards, the shitty Western title cards with the over the top after school special commentary narration on it. It just, man, I long for those days, dude. I love the kind of low grade production quality. And this is it got me thinking, like, this is really in that sweet spot of WCW where it's like right after the big crazy boom of the NWO kicking off, and right before it started kind of tapering into Goldberg and losing its way. So it's really like WCW in a lot of ways just kind of right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm watching all this stuff for the first time, and I've been watching all the Nitros and stuff leading up to this, so I can try to fill in the gaps, I guess, for some of the stories, but really everything's pretty much NWO or NWO adjacent at this point, but so not super hard to really grasp. But yeah, it was a good show. I mean, it was definitely an easy watch. There weren't really any duds on this show. Maybe there was, I don't know, but we'll get into it, I guess. But I guess one question I want to pose here is there's no Hogan on this show. Now, I'm not the biggest Hulk Hogan guy, but his star power, especially at this point, was undeniable. Do you think the lack of Hogan hurt the show, helped the show, or do you think it was just indifferent?
What do you think, Snead?
Well, it was odd because at the time he was champ at the time. So
right.
To not have the champion on your pay-per-view was a little odd, but I think that the story going into this one I think it was more based around what was going on with Kevin Nash. So I think if it seemed like if Hogan was on there, it would have just overshadowed that whole situation that they played up a lot on in the back. You know, Lee Marshall, he did a lot in the back with Kevin Nash for the show. So
he was gonna get that goddamn scoop, whether he lost his life doing it or not.
Yeah, it had me think, Lee Marshall had me thinking AEW is trying to recreate Lee Marshall with Al Scoops in the back, because he's knocking on the door. Six is opening the door, won't let him in. He's fighting for the scoop. I don't think Hogan, I think at the time, if I was, my age at the time this was happening, I probably would have been sour about Hogan not there. I don't think. It's hard to ask fans to shell out money for a pay-per-view when your champion isn't even on the card. And correct me if I'm wrong, unless I missed it, Sting wasn't here either.
No.
Yeah.
And at the point, at the end of the event, I mean, in the main event, the crowd was chanting, "We want Sting." So it's
everybody's looking to the rafters. Like if you look at the crowd, everybody's looking up to the rafters.
So that's a disappointment. I think Sting not being there probably soured the fans at the time more than Hogan, because there was the added stipulation of we're going to find out who's going to earn the right to face Hogan. But those two guys not being here in 1997 is a little odd, because that was your two biggest figures in the company.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I guess Hogan not being there, because that's kind of who Sting is after at this point. And the NWO is kind of self-imploding at this point. So he's not really needed, I guess. But I mean, we got other titles on the line instead of the world title. The women's title's here. So we got the same amount of prestige incorporated elsewhere.
I popped for seeing Luna. I totally forgot about Luna Vachon. When Luna Vachon interfered in that match, it got a little pop out of me, because I love me some Luna Vachon.
Yeah. It was a weird cameo there. But I guess before that, we'll start off with the opening match here. We got Rey Mysterio Jr. taking on Ultimo Dragon. I guess kind of sort of for the number one contendership for the Cruiserweight title, held by Six at this point. I love this match. I mean, no shock that Rey Mysterio versus Ultimo Dragon was a good match. I've been watching, chronologically all of this. So I've seen their previous matches. I think it was Hog Wild, World War III. This one is probably my favorite. It built off previous matches, but I'd like to. What did you guys think? Kind of just watching this in a vacuum.
I thought this was arguably match of the night. As far as just like work rate, and it's been a minute since I watched an Ultimo Dragon.
Nobody knows what's Ultimate or Ultimo.
It's like WCW, it's Ultimate. Is he Ultimo?
Here's the thing.
I thought he was awesome, man.
This is what I had these in my notes, because I took some notes watching it, and I heard the music. I saw him come out, and I said, "Oh shit, it's Ultimo Dragon." And then everyone called him Ultimate Dragon,
and the title, his lower third was Ultimate.
Third was also Ultimate Dragon, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Mike Tenay said Ultimo. He was the only one that was saying Ultimo.
Well, he was the one. He was the commentator that Bischoff specifically brought in, because he was so familiar with all of the luchadors and the Japanese wrestlers. So he was kind of tapped into that.
Now, after this, because I watched this pay-per-view, and after it was over, I was doing some things around the house, and it had automatically went into Spring Stampede 98. And there was another Ultimo Dragon match on there. And at that time, everyone was calling him Ultimo. His lower third was Ultimo. Everybody on commentary, and that was just a note. I was like, was he just not that fresh in the was he too fresh in the company at that point?
That he's been there for a while at this point.
That's what I looked at. That's what I looked it up, and I was like, that's not the case. So I don't know what was going on.
I think at the time, I got to be honest, like as a kid, when I'm watching this match, I didn't get the severity of who Ultimate Dragon is, but now his name kind of lives in lore of being like a perennial top guy in that kind of cruiserweight scene. And man, this match was so good. There's two little things that I loved, just little sidebar things. But when Rey goes for a suicide dive in this match, and he does the thing where he whips his legs around, and he cracks the camera guy.
The 619,
the 619. He's a little too close. And there is a Dusty Rhodes, which Dusty Rhodes was on commentary during this event, which is awesome.
Yes.
And he has a line during this where he says Ray's got to put him away and get to the pay window. That's like old school Carney shit.
Yeah.
Get the pay window. Get to the pay window. I love it.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes, good.
Well, that's something that even like I think Mance Warner uses that a lot.
That's what I was going to say.
Right.
Yep.
In his promos these days, Mance Warner is always talking about getting to the pay window.
That was a big JBL thing too on commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was Dusty Rhodes commentating a luchador match. It just feels like it shouldn't be on the same planet, much less in the same match. But
right. That we're so lucky to watch an event where you've got Bobby the Brain Heenan and Dusty Rhodes and them chiming back and forth and taking little shots at what each other's saying throughout the night was the highlight of the night. Was just Dusty and the Brain.
They're always fantastic. I mean, there's just it's a whirlwind with those two, but thank God Mike Tenay's there to try to tie this all together.
Yeah.
But yeah, this match is, I mean, because previous matches, you know, these guys have clearly scouted each other. Like all of the dives were getting countered by Ultimo Dragon. A lot of this match is Dragon kind of just, you know, controlling Rey with sleeper holds, like really relentless, like sleepers. Like anything Rey did, he would just lock him into a sleeper, which allowed Ultimo to hit these like brutal, like that running Liger bomb he did from one corner to like almost the opposite turnbuckle. It scared me. I thought he was going to smash his head on the bottom turnbuckle, but that was brutal. Like a leaping tombstone after it. All these kicks are just sickening. Like some of these kicks to the back of Rey are just nasty.
And this match went it was a 15-minute match, I believe.
Yeah, it was almost 15 minutes. And the back end of the match with all the near falls right before Mysterio rolls him up and gets the win. I mean, all the near falls setups, like they really booked the finish. It's kind of ahead of its time, which I think the cruiserweight division in WCW at the time, a lot of the match styles, the way they would lay the matches out is very ahead of the time, because now we're so used to those like near fall in the back 2-3 minutes of the match. But this match you could plop this match on Raw, Dynamite, and it would fit right in. Like it didn't feel dated. It felt very ahead of its time.
Yeah, and like I said, they built off of their previous matches. Like Rey got locked, he got locked into a tiger suplex. He was about to get suplexed, but he like desperately like flailed for the ropes because he knows that would finish the match. And then Dragon countered that Rana into the pin and then into a roll up, more near falls. But ultimately Rey wins with like a second rope springboard Hurricane Rana. And gets the win after a lot of near falls and a lot of just crazy offense from both guys. And I would probably agree, probably a match of the night for me.
Yeah, it's between this one and the TV title match for me, just as far, because I love Regal. I love Regal's matches. So
okay, I respect it. Also, we neglected to mention the little interlude within that opening match from Lee Marshall, which we kind of touched on in the beginning. I got Lee Marshall. He had an urgent update on Kevin Nash, because it was going to be Kevin Nash and Scott Hall defending the tag team titles against the Steiner brothers. But in real life, Scott Hall is in rehab at this point. Yep. And then, so now it's going to be a handicap match. Kevin Nash versus the Steiners. Well, that's not very fair. So Nash has some demands. What are these demands? Well, Lee Marshall's here to try to get what his demands are. And eventually he kind of gets into the locker room a little bit. He's like, Kevin, he's like holding the mic. What are your demands? And then Kevin's like, I want Nick Patrick. And then as Kevin Nash is jawing with Lee Marshall, the Steiner brothers barge in, trying to get into his locker room, which, like, guys, you have a match with them later in the show. Just wait like an hour. You'll get your hands on him. But
you're going to get to him.
Yeah, this is pre Papa Pump Scott Steiner.
Oh, he's pumped.
He's pumped. No bleached hair, though.
No, it's
I think it was before the head chain.
Yes.
He's still rocking the mullet.
Yeah. We're still Steiner brothers tie-dye for sure, but
yeah.
I think had they gotten the patent leather at that point? Was that patent leather Steiners?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I know right before they were doing white and red patent leather singlets. So
yeah, they went
I
from
think they were doing like
spandex.
white and black,
yeah,
like alternating kind of thing. Yeah. I think you're right.
The thing that popped me in that segment with Lee Marshall when Scott Steiner's trying to barge in and security maces and cuffs Scott Steiner.
Which is a bit extreme, I think.
Yeah.
For what he was doing, like he didn't have a weapon. Like, you see things on Raw and AEW nowadays. It's like the security's like, whoa. There's like a force field in between them and the wrestler. Now it's just, you're yelling at a guy, mace, handcuffs.
Well, in keeping kayfabe, when I looked it up to read a little bit too, and it said that it was said that he had hit a member of law enforcement in the scuffle.
Right.
Okay.
Good point.
So that's what got him maced and cuffed.
That actually makes sense. Yeah.
I will say, like, I don't know what it is, but these segments, maybe it's just kind of nostalgia shading how I view it, but those little segments like that felt more interesting and bigger back then. Now I feel like those segments don't hold as much weight to it, where that segment, Steiner being maced, it was essentially nothing. You know, Kevin Nash is giving his demands. He wants Nick Patrick. Steiner tries to break in. Security separates him. We see a lot of backstage security separations today, but they just kind of wash over me today. But this, it had like it
felt genuine.
It felt fun. It felt genuine.
Yeah.
It felt fun.
Yeah. This was my question. Why? Because the NWO was so, anti WCW and against the establishment. Why was Doug Dillinger and his team protecting them so much?
That's a good question.
Why was WCW security so heavy outside of their locker room?
Well, Eric Bischoff, I think, is still running the show. So maybe he put them up to it.
Yeah, maybe he's pulling some authority strings there.
It could be making Doug Dillinger stand outside there. I don't know. It was odd just to see WCW security protecting the NWO locker room.
Yeah,
Right.
this is post Bischoff going with NWO,
Right.
so maybe he's kind of influencing the security team, and
You're going to do this or you lose your job.
right.
Yeah.
And they got main event matches to protect. I mean, you just got to protect your assets, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to create some logic out of it. But,
Yeah.
well, we brought it up earlier. I know you guys are hungry to talk about it. The WCW Women's Heavyweight title. And I specify heavyweight because they're bringing in a Women's Cruiserweight title where there's an ongoing tournament right now. I don't even know if they finish it.
I don't think they did.
Mako Satomura was a part of that, which was a sight to see. But
yeah, this is Eric Bischoff being friendly with Sonny Ono, and these matches, I don't know, they always felt like throwaways because this is a time where there was really no women's division. You would get a match. They never really did a whole lot, even on the weekly TV. So it always felt like kind of a token women's match before women's wrestling really caught on with fans. I mean, they brought in Luna to try and make it interesting, but even that felt like such a weird, like, Luna's here. Okay.
Well, I had to actually go back and look because I didn't remember a women's heavyweight title. So
there's a reason.
So in going back and looking at it, it wasn't around too long. And I believe we only had 2 people hold it, and Akira was the first one. And I don't know if the other one ever was even shown on TV.
Probably on Pro or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's Akira Hokuto, the inaugural champion, defending against Medusa here. So Hokuto won the title. It had to have been like 5 or 6 months ago at this point, and this might be like the
96. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and this is like the second, maybe third defense of the title. So it's not a lot going on with the women's division. I couldn't tell if this was a bad match or not. I feel like both women are talented in their own right, but there just wasn't any, like, who cares about the women's title at this point? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they gave them 5 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It felt just kind of a buffer match. And I love Medusa. I mean, she goes all the way back to being a valet for the Dangerous Alliance in the early 90s. She's awesome, but I'm with you, like without time and without a division and with a belt we can't even remember because the lack of title defenses, it just had no steam on it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm a big Medusa fan. Her German suplex is beautiful. I mean, her series of matches with Bull Nakano, even in WWF, are great. Like, I mean, just phenomenal stuff. And not a lot to this match, like you mentioned. It was pretty short. Medusa hits a power bomb on Hokuto, seemingly has the win in her hands. But then Luna Vachon runs in, who, by the way, doesn't really show her face at all. It's just, I don't know if she didn't know where the hard cam was or what the deal was.
Yeah, there was no planning there with the camera crew, for sure.
It could have been anybody.
No. Yeah, because we see her go in, we see the back of her, and then no camera shot of her like running up the aisle or anything. I was wanting to see more Luna, but
yeah, camera didn't sell it. I mean, if commentary wasn't there, you might have not even known what happened, you know?
Either that or just, if commentary wasn't there, we definitely would have known who it was.
Right.
Right. And as somebody with one of the most distinguishable faces, like you want to get at least a shot of it, but
for sure.
No money shot on Luna. It's kind of a crying shame.
No money shot at all. And like I said, I'm watching all these Nitros and I don't remember seeing Luna on Nitro or being alluded to. I don't know if this is a WCW Saturday night vehicle or what, but I don't know. Maybe that'll be a thing in the future. But this allows Hokuto to get the win as Luna, I guess, chop blocks Medusa as she's going for a power bomb, and Hokuto falls on her, gets the pin, retains the title, and who knows when we'll see it next? Probably in a couple of years. But
I'm pretty sure that title went defunct in the end of '97. So
I believe it.
I don't think we saw much of it.
I mean, WWF already gave up on the women's title at this point, so you might as well too.
And somebody, I forget who it was on commentary, made mention of Medusa showing up and putting a title in the trash.
Right.
They actually brought that up. So
yeah, that was a pretty iconic moment.
It was Lee Marshall. Yeah.
Tony the Tiger is here to give us all the information. But yeah, that iconic that moment gets played over and over again, dropping the title in the trash. But what you don't know if you're just watching that is that they didn't follow up on it at all. No. I mean, it was months and months before they even thought about bringing the title in. And once they did, I mean, Medusa never even won it. So,
yeah, they didn't cash in on that. That was a big moment, and they didn't really go anywhere with it.
Lord knows they have all the talent. They have access to all these Joshis in Japan. Like, I don't know. Jacqueline even's here. Woman. Does Nancy Sullivan wrestle? I don't know. Throw her in the ring. Do something.
Yeah, Jackie. I mean, was this prior? So I get lost in Jackie because she had the big run in WWE. Is this prior to her going to WWE?
Yes.
Had she been? Yes. Okay. And then she goes to WWE late 90s.
Right.
Jackie's underrated. They did have some women here and they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. Kimberly,
the booty babe, Diamond Doll. That's the same person, I think. Yeah. Charmel's here somewhere, maybe. I don't know. But you know who I do know is here is Prince Iaukea.
Yes.
The WCW TV champion, defending against the man he took the title from, Lord Steven Regal. So match of the night, you say?
Match of the night for me is Mysterio and Ultimate Dragon, but it's up there purely because Steven Regal is such a good heel.
His facials,
his facial expressions, the way, like even before the match kicks off, he makes the champion wait. He goes to the apron. He's staring out into the crowd. Fans are hating him.
He's mouthing off to them.
He's mouthing off. I mean, just the pompous Englishman. I honestly think enough people don't remember how good Steven Regal was. Lord Steven Regal, the Blue Bloods, even that tag team with Bobby Eaton in WCW. But yeah, I love this match. Just maybe not so much bell to bell like the action, but man, just watching Steven Regal heel off in the confines of a match is worth the price of admission for me.
Yeah. I mean, that was the highlight. There wasn't a lot of, nuts and bolts to this match in the ring as far as moves go. I mean, Prince Ikea is like, I don't know, he feels super bland at this point. He won the title on a fluke and he's still champion. Like, props to them. I don't know, but
they were trying to find something for him. Like when he first came in, he comes into a pretty hot division of guys vying for these belts. And I thought they saw something in him, and then they quickly gave up. Cause if you remember, they give him this shitty gimmick, the artist formerly known as Prince IK,
right.
They just totally kind of abandoned ship on pushing this guy, but they were pushing him big at one point. I mean, he's a champion here.
He is. Yeah. He's TV champ. So, there was a lot of rest holds in this match that I noticed.
I love
they had
rest
a lot
holds.
of rest holds. Yeah.
They did. That's the Hill. That's the Hill stuff of Regal, right. Though. Not giving the crowd anything exciting. It was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
I feel like no hold with Regal is a rest hold. I feel like, because he's always doing something. While he might have some headlock in, but he's always like, just the way he looks at the camera, looks at the crowd. Sure. It's like, oh, you're such a dickhead.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's what you watch for. Like, you watch a Lord Steven Regal match to see him hold a rest hold and scowl at the fans. That's entertainment.
One of the best scowl in wrestling, man. His scowl is so good.
Scowl.
He has this. He always has this facial expression like he's smelling shit, which is awesome. Like, it's the best facial expression.
He's great. But this match is pretty much just a methodical beatdown by Regal onto Prince here. But I got a shout out, by the way, the walk away, like the Samoa Joe walk away from a flying opponent. You see Regal do that here, and this is like, what is this little fella doing? But ultimately, Regal goes for a schoolboy. Prince Ikea counters into his own roll up for the win out of nowhere. So he retains the title. So maybe no longer a fluke, this Prince. He's retained it against Rey. So he's kind of building himself a little title reign here, but doesn't seem like people are caring anymore the more he wins. But Regal, post-match beatdown, little Regal stretch action. Even this, it's like he has the stretch on and he sees the belt next to him. He's like, oh, let me bash him with the belt as I have this STF in. He's just so good at everything.
I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, the champion ends up getting the win, but I feel like the guy who walks out with higher stock is Regal. Like,
for sure,
Yeah. And let's not gloss over the fact that you mentioned Blue Bloods. We had him completely change Bobby Eaton's character into
some Alabama hillbilly,
Earl Robert of Eaton or something, whatever they called him.
Yeah.
Man, what a treat.
You can't beat that, man. And if you're a wrestling figure collector, that's the only Bobby Eaton figure we ever got. Was
really
the Blue Bloods San Francisco Toy Makers figure. I don't think there was ever, unless there's some company now that's doing
like throwback
wrestling, but we never got another Bobby Eaton other than the Blue Bloods 2-pack.
Yep. Right. Is there a Regal and Jean-Paul Levesque 2-pack?
Unless there was some Mattel figure that they did. I don't think so. Should be, though.
Missed opportunity. Well, there's still time, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Legends deals.
Speaking of legends, we got one here. We got old Ric Flair out here with Mean Gene Okerlund. So Ric Flair has been injured for quite some time now with a shoulder injury. But apparently he's going to be coming back soon on May 18th, which I think is roughly like a month and a half from the show, when they come to Charlotte. So I guess that'll be Flair is here basically to announce his return. And it's kind of hard because Ric Flair, he's all over the place sometimes. Was he saying that he invited Kevin Green of the Carolina Panthers to come back and team with him against the NWO?
That's how I took it.
That's what I got out of it, yeah.
Because last time Kevin Green was around, he was feuding with Flair. But I guess, bygones be bygones. Football season's over. It's a different season.
Yeah, they brought in Kevin Green with kind of the Mongo McMichael, 2 NFL guys. I remember Kevin Green being there for a hot second.
Well, Flair said that they were going to tag on the next pay-per-view. I think it was the next pay-per-view, which was May 18th.
Slamboree, yes.
Yeah.
And he also, I think he also wishes Arn Anderson well. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the surgery that he's wishing him well on is the surgery that ended Arn Anderson's career.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. He never came back to the ring.
No, we never came back in a wrestling capacity. Not in the ring. No.
Ric Flair's like, no, Arn, you'll be back. And I'm watching.
I know. The whole time he's saying that, I'm like, you have no idea that your buddy's career is donezo.
Yeah, he's not coming back though. One thing that I picked up on with this is before Flair came out, if I'm not mistaken, Mean Gene was really pushing the hotline.
Oh yeah, the hotline.
Oh, yes,
he was really pushing that, and like.
There's a new clique forming in WCW.
And I believe he says that there was a car accident with some of the boys, and we'll give you the scoop.
Kind of weird, just kind of throw under the radar. Oh, I guess everybody was fine from the car accident.
Right. Yeah. 909 9900.
900 909 9900. It's a number I'll never forget. I can't remember shit, but I can remember that number.
The WCW hotline, man. $1.99 a minute. Get your parents' permission before you call.
Yeah,
you guys ever call the hotline?
Without
I never called the hotline.
Yeah, I did. I got my ass beat for it because I called without parents' permission, and that $1.49 or $2.49. I think it was $2.49 for the first minute and 99 cents for each additional minute. And boy, I sat on there just to hear what Mean Gene had to say. I sat on there, and when that phone bill came, and they saw the WCW hotline on there, I was on the hotline. It was not good.
So I'm trying to look. I'm actually curious what this new clique is. Do you guys happen to know?
I didn't know who he was talking about either. I was like, who's this new clique?
I assume it's still like Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Six, and
it's probably some dudes that hung out in catering, and they just
yeah.
They probably got on there and was like, the Giant had dinner with Lex Luger, or something. Yeah, okay.
High Voltage is the new clique member. Like, some stupid.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But man, I probably would have called back in the day. So they hooked me. I mean, I'm curious. So
yeah.
Well, you brought up Mongo a little earlier. We got a little tag match on our hands here. We got the Horsemen, represented by Jeff Jarrett and Steve Mongo McMichael, with Deborah ringside, taking on the Public Enemy, of course, Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock. I mean, my takeaway here is that I love Mongo. Like, I think he rules. I've been conditioned to think that he's bad, just from all the clips online. You see, there was like a Twitter account dedicated to like all his botches before like the ALS and all that stuff. But man, just watching him, I think he just assimilated to the wrestling style, like from football, but he still incorporated the football elements of his offense, but also his charisma. Like, I love Mongo. That was my main takeaway here. I don't know. What'd you guys think this little ditty?
I never minded Mongo either. Like, because did he start Snead when he started? Was it commentary he started and then he started working in the ring, right?
Yeah.
Because he had the little dog he used to come out with. I always liked Mongo. He definitely has became kind of the internet. The internet has not been kind to his legacy. We'll say that. There's multiple clips out there, but I didn't mind it. I was confused by this match though, because they're representing the Horsemen, and this is a weird time for the Horsemen because you've got. I was wondering, like, okay, who's in the Horsemen at this point? Is this the era of Arn, Flair, Dean Malenko, and Benoit? But then they have Mongo there, and they have Jarrett. Like, has Dean not joined? Like, I was kind of confused.
Dean has not joined yet. I assume that's kind of what they alluded to in the U.S. title match. But right now it's Flair, Arn, Jarrett, Mongo, and Benoit. So technically it's 5 Horsemen, but also Flair and Arn are out. And Benoit's doing stuff with Kevin Sullivan. He's like on his own path. So they're like splintered and kind of not at full force right now. But also it's like 5 of them. So I don't know. It is a weird time.
Yeah, I remember it being a weird time for the Horsemen with all these people, because to me, the Horsemen of the late 90s, like when it felt like, okay, finally we have a solidified 4. It's when Malenko and Benoit were both in there. That's when it felt like solid to me.
Yeah. If you look at the poster for the event, has Benoit, Flair, Arn, and McMichael on it. And it says, these men solemnly swear to kick, fight, punch, stomp, and flatten anybody who gets in their way. So
then you got Jeff Jarrett with Mongo, and he's not on the poster. It's just a little confusing there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a side story to the Horsemen. Like Jarrett, when Jarrett first came in, he kind of got the blessing from Flair, but he did not get the blessing from like Arn and Benoit and Mongo. So he's tried to like slither his way into the Horsemen, and then he won a match himself. I forget who he fought, but he won some match that got him a membership, I guess, into the Horsemen. But him and Mongo still didn't get along, so they were like hitting each other with this Halliburton to cost each other matches. But now they're fine, I guess.
I remember the Halliburton stuff. I kind of remember that.
He still has it. That Steve Mongo McMichael that used to be full of cash. I don't know if it still is. Comes into play later in this match, but in the beginning stages of this match, because like I mentioned, Jarrett and Mongo had been at odds. They were kind of working in tandem. They were, Jarrett tripped up one of the Public Enemy guys, and then Mongo followed up with a chop block. So they're working together. They even do a double strut in the middle of the ring. So it's like, oh, the Horsemen are finally a happy family. And then all hell breaks loose. We get double cam action, double cameras. Everybody's fighting all around the arena.
They love that
tables, some table spots.
Oh man, tables, the covered wagon. According to Dusty, somebody went into the covered wagon, and the cow. Somebody got knocked into. I think it was Rocco Rock got knocked into one of those stupid cows. And Dusty, they're back in the ring, and Dusty's like, "I don't mean to interrupt everybody, but there's dead cows behind us." Whatever. So it's just all off the rails here. But Johnny Grunge is going through tables, like you mentioned. It is a fun energy, though. Most of the match, and especially towards the end. Mongo and Jarrett
didn't let up either. Like
no,
especially when you consider this match was about as long as the rest hold match with Regal.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like two totally different matches. I think it was around 10 minutes apiece, and they brought it. They used all the fun toys in the entrance. I thought it was fun.
And that damn Halliburton comes back to bite the Horsemen. Jarrett's got a figure 4 and Johnny Grunge. Rocco Rock off the second rope with the Halliburton briefcase to the head of Jeff Jarrett, and Johnny Grunge pinched Jarrett after he's knocked out. So Public Enemy gets the win. And I don't even know what the ramifications are really. Or I guess the Horsemen continue to just be kind of disheveled and not at full force.
Kind of at odds, it seems.
Yeah, Jeff Jarrett's still kind of trying to prove himself. Man, Public Enemy, what a weird journey for those guys. They were so over in ECW, then they come to WCW for a cup of coffee, then they try to go to WWE, and the Acolytes whip their ass out of the company. They come back to WCW. It's just like these guys, they had a weird run in the late 90s.
I loved them in ECW.
Oh, they were great.
They were one of those
teams that showed up at the Fox 11 Kids Expo to sign autographs. I still have an 8x10 signed by them. Rest in peace to both. They're both gone.
That's crazy.
How did they smell? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
They look like they stink.
Yeah, they definitely look like they stink. I don't remember, but they probably did. I remember Glacier, I think, was supposed to be there that year too, and he no-showed. So.
Damn. That's pretty cold of him. Guys?
Need a rim shot.
Glacier. He's Glacier. Ice. But boy howdy. After that, the hits just keep on coming. Okay. We got a little segment next with Mean Gene Okerlund and the Harlem Heat.
Oh.
More hotline shilling.
New click in WCW. Who is it? Call the hotline. So we're building up to this 4-way later in the show, but really, I mean, it's the meme. It's the Hulk Hogan. We're coming to you.
We're coming for you. Yep, brother.
That was the point to finish it off, but I guess not. They dubbed over it with sucka.
Sucka.
Yeah.
Which I was very upset about.
Yeah.
You can still see the reaction, which is the gold. Booker immediately realized it. And then, but still trying to act tough, still trying to flex his tricep.
Is this the iconic moment where he?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that. Shit.
They dubbed over it pretty well. Like, it was pretty seamless.
So this is the one we see memed all over the place on X and okay.
Sherry tries to console him a little bit, keeps the smile on her face. He's just like, oh.
I think at some point in the promo, Booker calls them knuckleheads, which I think he's trying to that's what I said, right? You didn't hear what I said before. Knuckleheads.
Man, Sister Sherry, though, I love Sensational Sherry, Sister Sherry, whatever you want to call her. She's like an unsung kind of. She's with so many good, talented people. She was Macho Man, Shawn Michaels, her run with Harlem Heat, whoever she was with, she always elevated them. I don't think she gets enough respect as a valet for the people she was with. I thought it's a weird tandem to put her with Harlem Heat, and she made it work. I like it.
It's like a juxtaposition that works. It's so different that it works. It's like the glue that holds them together kind of thing. Yeah, I totally agree. Sherry's, man, ever since that was Halloween Havoc 94 where she climbs the cage and jumps off for a double axe handle. Ever since I saw that, I'm like, okay, she rules.
And this is it's crazy how many big iconic moments she was in. I mean, she's in that big time Mania moment when she jumps Macho King at the time, which brings back Elizabeth, who runs down the aisle and there's that reunion. I mean, that's Sensational Sherry there. And now she's with Harlem Heat 3, 4, 5 years later. She's just a very large figure in the wrestling world. That
she sang the original Shawn Michaels solo song.
Yep.
It was her vocals.
Is she not the voice in the updated Shawn Michaels song?
I don't think so. I think they went away.
I don't think
from
so
her.
either.
Yeah.
Who is it? Do we know?
I don't know.
Is it Shawn himself?
It could
be. Nah, Shawn Michaels, his voice, he couldn't do that.
He's too gravelly. He's got a little.
Yeah,
it could have been him. It could have been him singing it, and Jim Johnston could have just messed with,
put the equalizer on it.
He is a magician.
The vocals, yeah.
That's a really good point. But boy, howdy, we got the United States title on the line in this next match.
This was
Dean
awesome.
Malenko, champion, defending against Chris Benoit. I totally agree. I mean, you talk snug, technical, snappy, stiff. I mean, these are the two epitomes of that. And lots of bells and whistles towards the end. But before that, I mean, it was good shit. What'd you guys think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, ended in a no contest. So, I mean, the finish, it is what it is. But anytime you get to see these two guys working in a ring, this to me was, everybody always goes to Hogan and, NWO during this time. But these are the guys that really made WCW special, because you weren't getting stuff like this on WWE. I mean, you had Bret Hart, who would break out really good matches, but Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit, they killed it, dude. Yeah. Killed it.
This is the match for me that brought back more nostalgia than seeing DDP and Savage or Steiner's, because those guys are so in our just everyday thoughts about wrestling. They're so big. But man, when you see a match with Chris Benoit with Woman and Dean Malenko, man, that just brought back a lot of feelings for me from the 96, 97 kid in me watching it.
Well, I think the match too, it had a lot of other things too that kind of, even though it was pretty overbooked towards the back end, with Jackie coming down, with Eddie Guerrero coming down with the arm in a sling, and then Arn Anderson comes down, and then you get Kevin Sullivan. And I totally forgot that during this time, the whole Benoit, Woman, Kevin Sullivan, the real life story they were working in on the screen, which was very interesting. And I mean, I want to say Benoit and Malenko also had a match around this time. I want to say Hog Wild.
Yeah, Hog Wild. Yep.
And and they tore the house down on that too. So these guys were just, you could tell they worked really well together because they could lay that shit in and make it look so stiff and so snug. I love
Those
it.
chops, man. I mean, good golly, just everything. Even like the submissions, they would just wrench them. Everything looked painful. Everything they did. But like you mentioned, it breaks down. So just in the background, like you mentioned, Benoit and Sullivan are still feuding, which therefore Woman and Jacqueline are feuding alongside that. And on the other side, you got Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero have been at odds. They had a match at the last pay-per-view. I believe that Dean beat Eddie for the title. Dean and Eddie have been like going at each other like, we've been friends, we've been up and down the roads together, but you've changed. Each guy's being like, you changed, you've turned for the worse, you're a cheater, you're a liar, whatever the hell. So they got those stories in the background, which all come to a head at the end of this match. Benoit, Malenko, they're fighting it out in the ring. Jacqueline randomly comes out, stomps to the ring, just starts beating the shit out of Nancy. They go at it, which is also really stiff and believable stuff. They're going at it. Benoit, he hits a headbutt while this is going on, so he doesn't seem to care much. And then Jimmy Hart comes out for whatever reason.
I forgot about Jimmy Hart. Yeah,
that was the part for me. I was like, what's his play here?
So he is in the Dungeon of Doom, which also Kevin Sullivan is a part of it. And so Jimmy Hart comes out, takes the U.S. title, steals it. Then Eddie Guerrero comes out in a sling. Guess he's injured. Jimmy Hart takes the belt. He puts it over Eddie's shoulder. And then Jimmy Hart, there's so much going on here. Arn Anderson comes out here. He attacks Dean Malenko. Kevin Sullivan comes out. He attacks Benoit. And then Eddie is then dragged out by Jimmy Hart and Sullivan with the U.S. title around his shoulder. I guess to like, I don't know, set a trap. Like, oh, Eddie stole the title, Dean. What are you going to do about it? Kind of. That's what I got out of it. I don't know if that's the situation, but
Randy Anderson calls for the bell right after the kendo stick attack. Kevin Sullivan.
Yep.
By the way, as all this shit is happening on the outside, like Dean Malenko, or I think it's Benoit, hits a suplex on the Dean off the apron to the concrete floor. It was just like, that shit was gnarly.
Brutal. Like, it was Benoit. I think it was Dean hit it on Benoit, and Benoit went flying on the outside. That was crazy. That dude looked like he was a 16th of an inch away from a paralyzation in that one. That was a wild suplex.
I'm still hung up on Cal saying that Jimmy Hart and Kevin Sullivan were still in the Dungeon of Doom. The fact that the Dungeon of Doom are still a faction in April of 97. I had totally thought that gimmick died right after NWO came, because if you remember, Dungeon of Doom pre-NWO, that was like Hogan's big feud was with this
Doomsday Cage.
Yeah. Wow. I'm totally removed from this time period. So I did not realize that the Dungeon of Doom was still a thing in April of 97.
And it's Conan's in there. You got who else? Hugh Morris, the Faces of Fear.
Yeah.
I love Faces of Fear. Faces of Fear.
They're holding it down for the
underrated
BOD.
tag team.
So good. So fun. But so ultimately, DQ finish. Nothing changes hands. But Benoit and Malenko, I think it's what Dean helps Benoit up. And they look at each other longingly for a while. And Dean goes, "He wasn't supposed to be here." And Benoit's like, "Yeah, I know." Which I guess they're referring to Eddie. So I guess they have umbrage with Eddie.
And I guess maybe, are they teasing here kind of Dean possibly coming into the horse, or at least we're getting a little bit of early.
That's what I got out of
that, right?
I guess technically that'd be 6 horsemen at that point, which how many horses could fit in the stable? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have to change your logo. You can't do that anymore. I mean, you gotta have 2 hands on it.
Yeah, 2-hander.
Can't sell merch, or maybe sell double the merch. Now you sell 2 foam fingers instead of 1.
Yeah.
There we go.
Merchandise genius.
Well, speaking of stealing money, we got Kevin Nash versus Rick Steiner here. So we kind of touched on it earlier. It was supposed to be a tag team match, but Scott Hall's out of the picture for the time being. Scott Steiner was maced damn near to death and then handcuffed and then taken to jail. So now we got a singles match for the tag team championships. Kevin Nash versus Rick Steiner.
Is this the first time or only time we've ever had a one-on-one match for the tag team titles?
I'm sure there might be some instance of it somewhere. I can't think of anything before this.
I was not a fan of this match.
It was weird. It felt more like it was just everything was leading towards the finish of it. Ultimately, it was kind of a weird one.
It felt like a holy shit, our guy is in rehab. We just have to go through with this and make it work. It I don't know. The Nick Patrick.
I think the story behind the match is more interesting than the actual match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm vaguely familiar with NWO lore and stuff. I've never watched it, in real time. So I didn't know like when certain stuff happened in the timeline. So the way this finished kind of surprised me. So Rick Steiner hits a low blow right in front of Nick Patrick, which why doesn't he call for the DQ? I don't know. Rick then hits the flying bulldog for a 2 count. Six interferes, but Rick no sells. This allows Kevin Nash to lay out Rick Steiner. And then Six was a screwdriver or a wrench in the corner trying to take this turnbuckle pad off, which he didn't.
Struggling.
He did not read the manual.
I don't think you need a screwdriver to take the turnbuckle pad off, dude.
I think that was his first problem.
Yeah,
taking a hammer to it or something.
I think just pull it, right? I think
it's got a string, dude. Untie it and pop it off.
That's it.
Well, nowadays it's like a cliche thing to do, but I guess back then it wasn't really, you didn't see it a lot. So maybe nobody knew how it was put together, but he's had to put together rings in his day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, Ted DiBiase gets up there to help him. They take this turnbuckle pad off, and Kevin Nash hits Snake Eyes onto Rick Steiner, sending him head first onto this exposed turnbuckle, which these bumps that Rick Steiner has taken on this turnbuckle are gnarly looking. He's just going face first. There's no protection.
Steiner is a double tough son of a bitch. He just seems like a dude that would be willing to take pain to make it look more real.
Yeah.
Or is it his headgear taking the brunt?
That's true. He's got,
Now I'm thinking of it. He kind of did land ear first most of the time. So maybe that was the situation. I don't know.
Maybe it absorbed a little bit. I think he was still.
What was DiBiase saying to Kevin Nash at the end of the match? Like, you went too far.
That's enough.
That's enough. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough.
Nash is like, I'll tell you when it's enough. And he just keeps doing it. Snake Eyes to Steiner on this exposed turnbuckle. I think it was like 3 or 4 times he did it. And Ted DiBiase leaves. He's like, I've had enough of this. I'll have no part of this. Even Nick Patrick, who's the scummiest of scum, is like, come on, Big Kevin, a little much, don't you think? And Nash is like, fuck you, count.
Count. Nick Patrick's just so reluctant to even get down there and do a count. But
right.
I mean, he's got to get a paycheck,
And this feud, this kind of carried on for a while. Like Steiner's and Hall, not Hall, but Nash and Six, I believe. I remember that this leads into, I think they do Wolfpack rules, and where Six can sit in for Hall.
As Freebird rules.
Yeah, it was called Wolfpack rules, where I believe Six starts tagging with Nash to defend the titles. And I think they lose those titles to the Steiners at some point in 97.
Possibly.
Maybe Halloween Havoc. It was somewhere around like the fall. I think they lose it.
Right. Because I was thinking that it feels early. Like I said, I'm not too familiar on the timeline. Is this Wolfpack? Are we about at Wolfpack? Because this feels early.
Well, I think that at this point, I think they're kind of referring to themselves as Wolfpack, but the Wolfpack isn't there yet. Like, I think when they start doing Wolfpack rules, that's even before NWO Wolfpack, I think. But that's like the teaser of the Wolfpack to come, because Wolfpack's 98, right, Snead?
Yeah, Wolfpack's 98. Maybe that was the new clique that Mean Gene was talking about in the back.
Yeah,
maybe
that's
the
true.
new clique was Wolfpack.
I like that, man. Tying it all together. But yeah, Kevin, I guess, whatever, retains the tag team titles by himself. And but more importantly, the NWO is crumbling. Kevin Nash, nobody's with him. He's gone rogue. So we'll see what comes of that. But I guess Six is still with
DiBiase's
him.
gone. DiBiase's out.
Is he out?
I don't think he's out, but he's getting fed up.
Yeah. There's not a price for that kind of tomfoolery. That's what you're saying,
true.
right? Right. Too much. Well, we're back to Mean Gene backstage with Lex Luger and the Giants, who are they have been teaming together, but technically they'll be against each other in a 4-way later in the show. Is it the next match? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't have a lot to say about this. I thought it was a pretty good promo from Lex and Giant here, which two guys that aren't necessarily known for their talking, but I thought it was pretty.
I thought the Giant floated in this promo. I thought he did great. Yeah.
I was kind of confused here because I couldn't recall, like, Giant was one of the first people to join the New World Order. I had no idea that I couldn't remember what made him leave so soon. Right, Snead? Like, wasn't he one of the first 4 or 5, 6 guys to join the New World Order? And now he's tagging with one of the guys that's fighting against. I was almost like taken back by it.
Yeah,
I don't remember. I can't.
It was very short lived because I'm trying to remember. I think he like lost a match. I think it might have been. No, it wasn't World War III. It was like some 8-man tag or something where he lost, and then Hogan's like, "You dropped the ball," and then Giant's like, "Fuck you! You also lost the other time," and then Hogan's like, "Ah!" and then they kick him out.
Okay, so I'm looking at it here. It says he was thrown out of the NWO on December 30th. So
of 96.
Of 96. So that would have been I think NWO was July at Bash at the Beach. So that would have been pretty short lived, and then he starts kind of tagging up with Lex.
Right.
I didn't mind the promo though. I think not to bring back Mongo and how Kyle was talking about how Mongo gets heat from modern day fans on the internet. I think Lex Luger gets heat from modern day people on the internet, that he was a shitty promo, that he wasn't good in the ring. I think Lex is underrated, to be quite honest.
I agree.
I think he's very underrated.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, I think, he was really good on this promo.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a cool look. He's not the most technical guy. He's not going to be doing this wide array of moves in the ring, but his energy that he brings, the crowd loves him. He's so wet.
Great promo, a great finisher, the torture rack. I mean, come on.
Oh man, just this little gesture. I mean, it'll set a crowd ablaze, and
super wet.
He's the wettest.
He was WCW's Ultimate Warrior as far as body type. Nobody looked like him, and I think he's better as far as in-ring total package. For lack of a better word, I think he's better than the Ultimate Warrior. I think the Ultimate Warrior had the crazy over the top promos that everybody remembers and loves, but as far as bell to bell, I prefer Lex.
It's not even close, in my opinion, between those two.
Not even close.
I mean, Warrior had the ridiculous bot, the just roided to the gills, Ico Pro through his veins. I mean, it's just. But he was also wet. So that's also.
He's always wet.
They're
super
both
wet.
Super wet.
I think Lex
there's
is a
there later on in Luger's career, which is probably towards the end of his wrestling career, he had a promo, and you can look it up, that he did on an indie promotion that is absolutely hilarious. He can't get his shirt off.
I know what you're talking about.
The shirt's too tight, and he just loses it. It is at the end of the promo, they don't cut it, and the guy that's filming it, you can hear him laughing at the end of it. The shit is hilarious.
Super Saturday. I don't even know who it's called. I don't know.
That's it.
I don't know.
That's it.
His shirts are too tight, too Billy. That is so good. I'm pissed now. He just runs off. He's
Your shirts are too tight. His eyes are wild in that promo.
Ooh. What a time. What a time for old Lex.
So good.
Let's talk more about Lex here. We got a four-way match for the number one contendership for the WCW World Heavyweight title. We got Booker T versus Stevie Ray versus Lex Luger versus the Giant. So, like, multi-man matches at this point, I feel like they hadn't really figured them out yet. Like, we're still tagging in and out, which is like, why are we tagging in and out?
Yeah.
It's Harlem Heat
why
versus...
would you tag out if the winner gets the title shot? I would just never tag out.
Right.
Yeah.
We also don't want to lose. Maybe you need a breather. Maybe you need a break. I don't know. There's a lot of strategy involved, I guess. But yeah, it's still a silly concept. The beginning, it's framed like a tag match in the beginning. Like Giant and Luger are tossing Harlem Heat around. Harlem Heat are getting a little hot at each other. They're shoving each other. Then Harlem Heat the combination of tags to get both Lex and Giant in the ring facing each other. They grapple a little bit, but then they tag the Harlem Heat guys. So now Harlem Heat has to fight each other. Crowd goes apeshit for this, by the way, because we hadn't seen this at this point, I don't think. They do a little chain wrestling, but I think it was all like a ruse because they like fist bump eventually and then they tag out. After that, not a ton to the match itself until the finish. I don't know what you guys think of this thing.
It was a little too clusterfucky for me. The gimmick of the match, the four corners tag match, it was cool seeing the guys get the spots in, but I wasn't big on it.
I think I probably would have been more into it if it wasn't Harlem Heat in it. In a four-way, kind of against each other. It just didn't really make sense to me.
And it was for a shot at Hogan. And I just, even then, I'm like, they're not going to give a shot at Hogan to Booker T or Stevie Ray.
Right. Yeah, it just seemed, at 13 years old, I could figure that out. And
yeah.
And it's just.
And it was too long, man. Too long. The match felt long.
One thing that I did notice is that, which I never noticed it before, but with Harlem Heat going against each other, they wore separate colors, that was
cool.
Yeah, one wore the gold, one wore the silver white, which I thought was cool to kind of set them apart. But still, I mean, it's Harlem Heat.
Yeah, I think we still got a few more years until Stevie Ray and Booker T go at each other with Ahmed Johnson involved or whatever the hell that was. Fighting for the T. Wasn't like Sweet Tea versus Booker T or some stupid shit. I don't know.
Yeah, doesn't Stevie Ray end up joining the New World Order? Wasn't he in a late incarnation of the black and
wasn't? I was a part of the New World Order.
100%.
Yeah.
Everybody was in the New World Order.
But the finish ultimately comes. Harlem Heat are beating on Luger most of this match. Giant gets the hot tag. He clears house. Power slams Stevie. He fucking super kicks the shit out of Booker T. Knocks him over the top rope. And he pantomimes like he's going for the choke slam. But then he turns to Lex Luger. He's like, no. Tag me, Lex. He wants Lex to get the victory. And he wants him to get the title shot against Hulk Hogan. True friendship, folks. True friendship. The Giant basically hands over. Basically hands over Stevie Ray's carcass to Lex Luger, racks him, he submits, and Lex Luger gets the win and is now the number one contender for the world title. So interesting finish, but I don't know, I guess we got some cohesion on the WCW side of things finally. That NWO is splintering, but WCW is coming together. You love to see it. Love to see it.
I don't think Luger cashes that title shot in for a long time. I don't think it happens until like summertime.
Because I know he wins the title, isn't it? Like August.
The title.
I think August. I believe it was like an anniversary episode of Nitro, maybe like the 100th episode of Nitro or something. So, yeah. He wins and he has this moment, and then he immediately drops it at the very next pay-per-view. I think.
Yeah. Very interesting times, but I mean, Lex was hot, so was cool for the moment, I guess, but we still got a ways to go. Maybe he has a match in between and it's like a schmozzy finish and then they come back to it. Who knows? But that brings us to the main event, folks. We got a no DQ match between DDP and Macho Man Randy Savage. This was good stuff. I mean, what do you guys remember? The story is probably the hottest story going right now. I mean, DDP is just so organically over. Like, he was just a schlubby undercard guy like a year ago. And now with this diamond cutter and just his natural charisma he's gotten so over with the crowd. We're like right at the beginning of this launch pad for DDP. Randy Savage, he's just unhinged. He's NWO now. It was just a beautiful storm of chaos this match, I thought was. So what'd you guys think of this one?
I love it. This to me could be, as far as like execution, this could be the best feud in Nitro era WCW. Like, I think it's a highly underrated feud because they have I think they have a couple other matches in this feud on pay-per-views. I can't remember which ones, but dude, DDP at this point, man, people forget, like, because I feel like time has kind of, his transition into WWE when they purchased the company. They had him come in as like the stalker of Undertaker's wife or whatever that shit was.
Yeah.
Dude, 97, 98 Diamond Dallas Page. You really had to be there in the moment to realize how hot it was. He was so over. Even his feuds with like Chris Kanyon, I think, came after this. But dude, Macho Man and DDP, they just clicked together. There was something about the way they worked together that was so good. The Diamond Cutter was the hottest finisher in wrestling at this point.
Yeah.
I think I love this feud. This match was great. I think this match is short. Like, I wanted more. It only went a little over 15 minutes.
It felt like there was another gear that they could have hit for sure.
Yeah, there could have been more here. I wanted more.
This match for me, it was, I didn't realize that this main event, but it brought me back to a house show that we had here in Charleston. My dad worked at a restaurant that was right beside of our Civic Center. And this was back in the day when you camped out for tickets. And Dad worked midnights there. He worked overnight. He would clean the restaurant at night. And so he cleaned the restaurant and then went over and he was second in line. And we had front row tickets to a WCW house show. And the main event on this house show was Savage and DDP.
So they were working together for matches like this, kind of getting that chemistry on the house shows,
kind of working it out. And I have photos somewhere of them, and I have an up close shot of probably 2 feet in front of me, DDP carrying Macho Man. And
that's awesome.
That's
awesome. Just, and then after that, after the show that night, I went and slept in a booth at the restaurant. And I remember my dad coming to wake me up. He said, hurry, come look. And there was a restaurant across the street from this restaurant that the wrestlers would go to called Joey's. And he said, come look. And it was Macho Man and Kevin Nash were walking down the street over to the restaurant.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Just as a kid, that just was fucking mind blowing.
I mean, it's as larger than life as it gets, Macho Man and Kevin Nash. So that's really cool.
And to just see them walking down the street, I didn't know at the time. There were no camera phones. We didn't have a camera or anything like that, but
still kind of keeping kayfabe. 2 NWO guys were walking together, not Macho and DDP.
Right.
Still kind of keeping the kayfabe alive.
I feel like Joey's was a heel bar anyway. I don't know if we had many.
A heel bar.
Joey's
was Ric Flair's spot. That was Ric Flair's spot.
It was famous in wrestling lore. I actually have a match book from the restaurant's gone, long gone. But I had a lady on Facebook posted a match book from there, and I went and bought the match book from her.
That's awesome.
Ric Flair remembers Joey's.
Yeah, I met Flair to he finished off my Four Horsemen 4-pack signatures, and we were talking, and I told him I was from Charleston, and he said, I had some good times at Joey's, and he was even asking, he was like, is Joey still alive? He was like, I remember Joey, because at every house show, I mean, he would get on the microphone and do his famous, 18 to 28, no boyfriends, I'll be at Joey's. Every time, man. And he was there.
Sensational. That is.
Snead, what did you think of DDP during this era?
I love DDP. DDP was, I loved it. I love DDP. When I started really liking DDP was when he was in his homeless guy character, when he was, trying to get his break, and his pants were always ripped.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't catch a break. That's when I really became a fan of DDP.
Was this like Johnny B. Bad feud and Butcher or whatever his name was, Booty Man?
Yeah. And, that was right after the, when he was
right after his valet period.
Yeah. Right after he was, Diamond Stud's manager.
Yeah. So, Diamond Stud hailing from the diamond mines.
Diamond mines.
Oh, God. And he's like, even at this point, he's like just now shed like the fur jacket, the cigar in his mouth out to the ring, the glasses, the whatever.
And dude, at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, I think at this point when he's first getting hot, he's pushing 40. Like he was a late bloomer.
Yeah.
He wasn't like coming up in the business young. Like he kind of got into wrestling late. And man, to see a guy like, he was so over. You always hear people say Sting and Hogan during this time, and obviously Hall and Nash, but DDP was at this point in the company with this match and this feud, he was one of the top 3, 4, 5 guys in the company.
Easily, yeah.
Yep.
Because me, I was a WWF kid, so my real like association with DDP is one, he's the guy that stalked the Undertaker's wife. He's the guy that does yoga, and I think he teamed with a basketball player once. Like that was really him in my mind. So I'm glad to like be watching all this stuff chronologically to see like his rise, and just because he's so like. I compare him almost to like an LA Knight of today, where he just has like this natural charisma that everybody really grasps to. It's just so natural. He feels so different than anybody else. And like, especially in an era where it's so cool to be a heel, like NWO is so cool. Stone Cold is so cool. He's like this like diamond in the rough. I mean, whatever, diamond in the rough. But as a baby face, and just to see his first main event here against Randy Savage, and by the way, gets the win over Macho Man with the diamond cutter of all. I mean, it's like it was a perfect storm here, and it's only the beginning for old Dally here. So this is really good stuff.
Yeah, and he like people forget, man. Unless I'm forgetting a brief moment in his story in WCW. I remember him having the moment with NWO where he fakes them out and he has the NWO shirt on, but then he like diamond cuts one of them. But he's one of the few guys that that was there for the height of the New World Order. He's one of the few guys that never joined. He was kind of like WCW's flagship bearer, because in the beginning, everyone's like, oh, Sting's the guy who fights against New World Order. Sting was in the Wolfpack though. I don't think DDP always kind of fought for WCW.
That moment that you're talking about, I believe in the Scott Hall documentary that they did with him, doesn't he thank him for that was in New Orleans, and he thanked them for that, like catapulted his career that moment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because no one had really gotten one over the NWO at that point. So that was huge, and especially for DDP of all people to do it. I mean, it was really great stuff.
I mean, and it's funny too, because, we keep referencing like the internet age of wrestling fans, and, one of the more memeable finishers in today's wrestling is the RKO. Yeah. If Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all of that was around during this match and this era of DDP, the diamond cutter would have been that type of, I mean, RKO is essentially a diamond cutter, let's be honest. And that move, man, he sold it. I loved seeing him get this over Macho. I thought it was a big moment, and I love this match. Love this match.
Yeah, and a lot of it's DDP fighting from underneath Randy Savage. Which, shout out Randy, by the way. I mean, his this new kind of persona. I mean, he's so unhinged. Like I said,
him
he always has, like,
walking
the
to the
crazy
ring,
hair, but
just him walking to the ring,
all
and
black.
Came out of the locker room. He's like, he almost just sounds crazy because he's talking free Slim Jims for it's free Slim Jims. And it's just like, he's just kind of talking to himself. Elizabeth's next to him, but he's just talking to himself on the way to the ring.
And let's be honest, this is a guy who Macho was the most colorful character. So to see him decked out in his gear, but blacked out, it was this is one of the more underrated moments of Macho Man, is this 97, 98 Macho Man. He's underrated. What did we call him, Snead? I think it was like goth, Macho goth, or this is like the goth era of Macho Man.
Yeah. One of my favorite DDP facts and I'm sure everybody knows this, but it's one of my favorite facts, is that he drove the rhythm and blues car at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
He drove the rhythm and blues Cadillac. I mean,
that's awesome.
Man, really starting from the bottom, this old DDP guy. And,
but it just goes to show you, man, like this guy, like he worked his way up to be a superstar in this company. And this match, DDP Macho, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
And pretty beloved, like I think he talks about how Macho really wanted to help him get over, because Macho respected how hard he worked. And I think this whole feud with Macho, it was like Macho was wanting to help this guy reach the next level. And this match and the consequential feud of it before and after, I think really put him on the map. And then obviously all the DDPY, Scott Hall, Jake Roberts, all the people that he helped. Right. I mean, he's just a good dude in the wrestling business, I think. Unless
you're Undertaker's wife, which is
a
pretty bad guy.
Stalk you and kidnap you.
Yeah. bad guy. But just don't do that. There's a lot of like crowd brawling in this match. You got trash cans and cords and chairs getting used. A lot of it's Macho Man just kind of kicking the shit out of DDP here. Multiple chair. I love that he'll like take a chair, he'll like throw the timekeeper out of the way, grab that chair, hit DDP once, and then go and take a different chair by bullying somebody else out of their chair. He's such a dickhead here, but I love it. I think he even looks like clocks Dave Penzer at some point. Starts stomping him.
I love it.
DDP tries to fight back. He throws the chair at Macho and punches it, but Macho gets control back. These body slams he's throwing out just look vicious. And then he teases the old Ricky Steamboat spot with the bell. But then Kim, DDP's wife, takes the bell. But Macho's like, I'm already up here. Might as well throw an elbow. And he goes for the elbow drop. DDP gets the feet up to stop it. And then at some point, Macho... he goes for the diamond cutter, but it's countered into a low blow from Macho. And Macho, now that he has DDP down, he gives one of the stiffest pile drivers I've ever seen to the referee for no reason.
Great.
Just
it's no DQ,
I guess. Takes his belt off, whips the ref with it. Then he hits the elbow on DDP, but lo and behold, there's no ref. You stupid idiot. But he's crazy, I guess. Then Nick Patrick comes out, the referee of the NWO. So surely he's going to help Macho Man out here. Kevin Nash is even there. I guess he brought Nick Patrick out. Get this creepy shot of Kevin Nash smiling at him. And Nick Patrick gets in the ring. Macho Man's up. He sees Nick Patrick. Okay, let's go again. And then Diamond Cutter out of nowhere. Slow cover. Nick Patrick's conflicted, but he eventually counts the 3. DDP gets the win. Kevin Nash is pissed. It's like, why are you counting for him? And I don't know. Nick Patrick's still pissed about earlier, I guess. This brings out Eric Bischoff and the rest of the NWO, minus Hogan. So what? Vincent, Scott Norton, fucking IRS is here. This is where we get those "We want Sting" chants, but there's no Sting to be had. And then Kevin Nash hits the jackknife to Nick Patrick. Macho Man grabs Kim. Eric Bischoff's like, well, that's too much, too much. And then Macho Man and Eric Bischoff start shoving each other. Like at one point, Macho Man smacks Eric. And that's kind of like the last visual until it fades back to commentary. So a lot of intrigue set up for Nitro tomorrow night. And that's kind of what their bread and butter was, I feel like, to set up for Nitro. Yeah. So it did its job there. And I thought it was NWO and Turmoil. I like it. Almost seems like too fast for them to have Turmoil. I mean, they've only been a group for what,
9 months? A year?
Almost. Not even a year.
9 months, I think. Yeah.
But I don't know. What do you guys think of the whole all the stuff in the post match?
I mean, if I'm watching that, I think it's a way to hook you. You know, I'm with you. I think it's a little too fast for dissension. But looking at the way WCW did their shit, I mean, one of their greatest factions, the Dangerous Alliance, I think they were around for 10 months and then they buried it. So the fact that it took them 9 months to start just getting hints of dissension shows a little bit of patience there. But yeah, I think without Hogan and without Sting to end a pay-per-view and get you to tune in tomorrow on Nitro, I'm tuning in. Like, oh shit, Macho just slapped Bischoff. What's going to happen tomorrow night? Yeah. I thought it was a hell of a way to go off the air without your two biggest names.
I mean, my takeaway here. So we got NWO is in dissension. There's dissension within the Four Horsemen, but you know what faction is tight together, no problems? It's the old Dungeon of Doom. So
they're still rocking and rolling, man.
This show set up the Dungeon of Doom to reign supreme, is what I got from this.
And they should have.
So they should. I expect
Faces of Fear, tag champions, put the world strap on Kevin Sullivan. Let's go.
Hugh Morris, make him the TV champion. What's that? Who else they got? Conan. No, he's not going to be there for much longer.
Was John Tenta in there still at that point?
Not, he's not a shark. He's a man. No, he's not. He's I don't know what John Tenta's doing. He's John Tenta at this point. He's already had that match with Bubba.
Was he in the oddities? Was he in the oddities at this point?
That's why I was. Is he Golga in the oddities?
I don't think he's Golga yet. He was. So we're fresh off of that thing with Roddy Piper. I don't know if you guys remember where Roddy Piper like hired some guys to be a part of his team. That lasted like a week or two, and John Tenta was a part of that for whatever reason. But then they got rid of it, and now I don't know where John Tenta is. He might already have bought the Golga mask at this point, so don't know.
Wearing the South Park T-shirt.
His Cartman doll.
But yeah, that brings Spring Stampede to a close. If you guys had to grade this show from a scale of 0 to 100, what do you think you would throw at it?
Oh, man.
Like grade school.
0 to 100.
Yeah. So we're thinking like 70 is like a C.
Let's say 75.
75 is what popped in my head. I'll go 80. I'll give it an 80.
Yeah. It was an easy watch. Like, not super. I mean, there's pivot points in the stories and there was some good wrestling. I mean, it didn't feel like a tentpole event, but it was a breezy watch, I thought.
It wasn't
nothing monumental. No monumental story points, but definitely furthering story and a couple really great matches from Rey and Ultimo Dragon, Dean and Chris Benoit. And then you had a killer main event with a great feud in DDP and Macho Man.
Right.
75, 80, somewhere in there.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's very fair. But you know what I would give a 100? It's the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast. Appreciate you boys hopping on here, talking some wrestling. Where can everybody find you guys, listen to you, watch you, taste you, all that stuff?
Just search Turnbuckle Tavern on Apple and Spotify. Everything there, audio. If you want to watch it, we have a Patreon. You can find patreon.com/the Turnbuckle Tavern. You get all the podcasts live in video form early. There's tons of shows. We have our flagship show which is just covering AEW. We got our debate show that Kyle has been on several times. And we got a WWE show over there, Raw Down, Wrestling Tonight, which is just basic wrestling news covering everything. So we have a little bit of everything over at the Turnbuckle Tavern, and you can find us on Instagram at Turnbuckle Tavern. Everything there. There's a link there, so it takes you to everything. But yeah, check us out.
Hell yeah,
I would I can't really do any more than what Chad just said, but one thing I do want to highlight with our Patreon is we have a very fun Facebook group, which is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of fun talk in there, man, and it's a good time. And with one of the perks is, and if you get in the Facebook group, you can ask a question for the debate. We'll answer it on the debate. So a lot of fun.
Hell yeah.
Join us, check us out.
And we appreciate you having us on, man. It's always fun to come on, and you're one of our favorites to have on the debate. So
yeah, it's fun to finally come on and kind of scratch your back, since you've scratched our back on the debate several times. And I always apron bump when your clips pop up. They crack me up. There's some really, and I think the next time we have a debate and you're on, Kyle, I saw your clip about Chris Jericho not being a...
Oh boy. I got a lot of pushback on that.
I love it. I love that you took that stance, and maybe we can have a future debate about that. I love that you took that stance, though. It popped me. It was great.
Yeah, maybe a little exaggeratory on my part, but it seems like that's what gets the people talking.
Dude, you gotta go out on a limb sometimes and make a statement. I loved it because you don't hear that a lot. It's very easy to say, "Oh, he's such a David Bowie revolutionary with his gimmicks," and the fact that you made that claim, I loved it. I was like, "That's a debate topic for the future."
Yeah.
Oh man, that might end this relationship, but we'll do it. We'll do it next time. Once again, I thank you to Chad and Snead from the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast for joining me on this episode. It was a great time with those boys. Would love to have them on again sometime in the future. Was a hoot. Go follow the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast. Take a listen. Give a subscribe ski. Do all those things that podcasts love when you do to them. Do those to me at the same time. But maintain eye contact when you do it. Anyways, hey, Bartholomew, I think you need to hit that jingle, you piece of shit. WCW, ECW, WWF, who's the hardest promotion? Eric or Vince or Paulie? I think we can agree, though. Heck Myers is the shit. Alrighty then. The hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues. WWF, WCW, ECW. Which company's the hardest? Well, that's why you're here, isn't it? As of right now, as of this point in time in the year, before we get to Spring Stampede and how that's changed everything, let me just give you an update on the scores. ECW is in the lead with 35 points. WCW in second with 19. WWF pulling up the rear with 4 points. We'll get into all these points and what will cause the changes. But first things first, we got to grade this show because that will play a major part in these points. As of right now, ECW has the highest average grade in their shows. But let's see if that changes with Spring Stampede. Spring Stampede was a very good show, I would say. It was a pretty good show. Let's settle down. It was pretty good. So I'm thinking pretty high marks for this. Just to kind of give you a gauge here, we gave Uncensored a 78. Super Brawl was an 81. Really? What happened at Super Brawl? Wasn't that Roddy Piper Hogan? Yeah, it was. Spring Stampede. I have the memory of a goldfish. So let me pull up the card for Uncensored. I remember the finish of the show. That is for certain. I remember the finish. Let me take a look at this card to kind of stir my memory of what we had on this show. We had Eddie and Dean, was good. Psychosis, Ultimo Dragon. Okay, Mortis, Glacier. That's why I got such a high grade. And then, of course, the main event tag team match. I'm thinking Spring Stampede is similar, but is it better or worse? I'm thinking maybe better. It was a fun watch. Like, just the overall pacing of this show, I think, was top tier for WCW. I wouldn't say... I don't know if I'd put it above Super Brawl, though. I'm thinking... I think it actually might be a shade under Uncensored. Just because I think Uncensored had more intriguing storyline developments. Maybe. I could be wrong. It's similar, though. You know, I'm going to throw a 77 at Spring Stampede. I think that feels right. I think that's fair. I don't think it quite reached the peaks of Uncensored. But it was good. It was just a fun watch. I think 77's fair. So now what we do is refresh this. Boom. Wow. Wow. Would you look at that? WCW has overtaken the highest average grade of their pay-per-views with a 72. ECW 71. So we go back to the overall scoreboard here. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sharing my screen. You can walk along visually with me. But obviously, if you're listening, I will talk you through it as well. So we look at the overall scoreboard. Best pay-per-views. And in parentheses, highest average score, which as we just mentioned, is now WCW. So WCW overtakes ECW. So they take 15 points away from ECW and bring it on down to Atlanta. Big points swing there, ladies and gentlemen. Big things happening. So now we move on down here. So as we're like in the overall, you know, the all-encompassing section. We'll get more specifics later. Best TV. Which company has the best TV product going on? I keep it vague on purpose because there's each promotion has their take on what TV is, what TV wrestling looks like. As of right now, ECW is kind of in cruise control as far as their TV goes in preparation for Barely Legal. Great promos, but not actually, I shouldn't say that. They have some fun lucha stuff going on ECW TV, so there actually is some good stuff on. But I can't say it's, from a storyline perspective, it's not the most must see. I think WCW has a more must see. Like you'll feel like you'll be missing out if you miss Nitro. Raw still kind of sucks, so I think we'll leave it at WCW so they maintain those 15 points. Best in-ring product. Just talking bell to bell here, folks. Right now we're tracking ECW as the best. I think WCW might take this over as well. No? I mean, the cruiserweight division is still rocking and rolling. You got Benoit. Sorry, I sucked in something. Oh yeah. Dean and Benoit and the whole Horseman. How it intertwines with Eddie. So they're prominently shown. Tag team division is what it is, but does WCW take this? I think they might. Because ECW, like they do ECW in-ring good. Well, I should say. But I don't know if I would. We'll come back to this after Barely Legal. Barely Legal, I think, might give us a better depiction of ECW's in-ring product. I think for now, WCW takes this as well. So WCW will take these 10 points away from ECW. And all of a sudden, WCW is firmly in the lead here. But let's continue on and see how the rest of this shakes out. The best out of ring. So we're talking the promos, the storylines, the characters, what have you. I think so. We're tracking ECW as the best right here. I think we'll leave it because I've said it. It seems like I've said it the entirety of the time that I've been doing these. But ECW just has good stuff throughout their roster, from top to bottom. The promos are still by far the best. WCW has a few really good things, but it's a lot of filler. WWF kind of the same. So we're gonna leave it at ECW for now, so they maintain those 10 points. Now we move on to the best section. The best match of 1997 so far. Right now we're tracking Bret Hart, Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. It's going to be hard to knock that off. Spring Stampede, I would say the best match was either Ray Dragon or DDP Savage, in my opinion. And the question is, do any of those matches stack up? I just think it's a Bret and Stone Cold, and this is why it's going to be so hard to beat it off. Oh, yeah. The story, the characters, how it meshed, the intensity, the energy. It's just, we talked about it in the WrestleMania 13 episode, which go check that out if you haven't already. It was just the peak. It was peak energy. Like you watch it, just the nuts and bolts of the match. It's like, it's okay. It's an okay match, but it was just so much drama. Just the way those characters, how they had been organically built up to that point. It was just so good. Whereas here, like a Rey Mysterio Ultimo Dragon, phenomenal match, phenomenal. And you could say there are storyline implications because this is their rubber match on pay-per-view. We talked about it in the episode, how they've learned from previous matches and they were incorporating those kind of psychology elements into the match. So there is a lot of good stuff there, but I just can't put it above Bret and Austin. I'm sorry. I can't. Rey Mysterio Ultimo Dragon, definitely top 5 of the year for sure. Maybe even top 3. DDP Savage was good. I wouldn't put it in the conversation. Personally. I really enjoyed it, but probably top 10. We'll say top 10. But I think Bret and Austin still keeps this one for now. So WWF still maintains those 5 points. Best wrestler of the year. We were tracking Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I've said it in previous episodes. I think this is going to be a constant battle between Stone Cold and DDP. I think maybe even throw Taz in there at some point, but as of this moment, no. So we're tracking Stone Cold. Does DDP take it at this point? Is DDP hotter after Spring Stampede than Stone Cold was after WrestleMania 13 is the question. We're taking match quality into account. We're taking promos, characters, all this stuff. We're taking it all. It's close. I think Steve Austin still maintains it for now. I think he's been stronger in the ring this year. Both guys have had great characters, organic rises. Very similar in a lot of ways. I think Stone Cold edges DDP out purely on match quality so far. But a lot of year to go. Best character / storyline. We're tracking Sting. So no Sting on this show. So we got to take that into account. But he's still very much in the minds of the crowd, as we mentioned. They were chanting for Sting. They wanted Sting to come out, but he didn't. I think that's a testament to how strong his character is, that people want him to come out to end the show. I would say Sting is still the best. You could throw DDP in here, but it's WCW regardless. I don't think it matters, but I think we'll leave it at Sting for now. Best segment of the year, Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall on Nitro. I believe we discussed this on the episode. Were any other moments? I can throw the Booker T promo on this one. Maybe something with the you could throw the NWO Steiner's car wreck into this as well. I wouldn't hate that. You could throw Scott Steiner getting tased or maced. I think it's WCW. Regardless, so we'll just leave it at Diamond Cutter to Scott Hall for now. So no changes there. So now we move on to the worst section. The worst, ladies and gentlemen. Worst match of the year so far. We are tracking Undertaker versus Sid at WrestleMania 13. Nothing on this show was even close to that bad. So I think we'll maintain it. So WWF keeps those -3 points. Worst wrestler of the year. Got a little pushback on this one. We're tracking The Undertaker as the worst of the year so far from the WWF, of course. Again, no one on this show and none of the Nitros kind of lended any other, I mean, who else? Who else would you throw in here from WCW just based on this show that we just covered? Public Enemy, maybe? No. I mean, you could, but I don't think I would. Prince Iaukea? Hold on now. Hold on. Let's hold on a second. Prince Iaukea. I might like that. Because Prince Iaukea and The Undertaker, I think this is the first time they've ever been compared to each other, but Prince Iaukea and The Undertaker both have just had stinker after stinker after stinker, right? But from a character perspective, I guess neither has been super strong so far. But I think The Undertaker has been a little bit stronger. Do we throw Prince Iaukea? I think Prince Iaukea, I think his wrestling ability isn't bad. He's thrown into a situation where it's impossible to care about him. So I think what this comes down to is Prince Iaukea and his status at this point. To me, I don't think it's particularly his fault. Whereas The Undertaker is just, he's The Undertaker. And he's being shit despite that. So, like, Undertaker has all the tools to be awesome. But he chooses not to be. But I don't know if that's necessarily fair either. He was in the Final Four. No, was he? Was he in the Final Four match? He was, right? Am I wrong? Yeah, he was. Was he? Hold on. I forget. It was Undertaker WWF Final Four. It was... I'm telling you, man, I have the memory of a goldfish. Yeah, he was. Okay. I couldn't remember if it was Sid or Undertaker. But Sid was champion, so that would make sense. No, it wasn't. I don't know. Whatever. So Undertaker had that Final Four match, which was good. So that's a plus mark for him. That's good. Bravo, Take. Bravo. Fuck, I'm throwing at Prince Iaukea. Here's the thing, right? How do you spell this cocksucker's name? Prince Iaukea. That's another reason. You have a stupid name. So that's why you're the worst of the year. Prince Iaukea overtakes worst of the year, so WCW takes those -3 away from WWF. So, yeah. And Undertaker is just, he's not going to be the worst of the year at the end of this year. I try not to take into account hindsight in these. But that's just how it is, man. Prince Iaukea, he's not cooking. He is very lukewarm. I don't even think the burner's on with this Prince Iaukea. So, he had a bad match with Rey Mysterio. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it is his fault, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. All right. Worst character / storyline. We're tracking Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson. Now, Nick Patrick was a very intriguing part of this show. Randy Anderson, I don't know where I think he's just back. So I think maybe we're done with that feud. So while it was kind of bad, it was quick and painless. Now the question is, what else could overtake this? Character / storyline. Let's think this over, everybody. ECW, I don't think they really have any bad characters or storylines. None of any significance, at least. WWF, you could go Nation, but I kind of like the Nation. Ahmed Johnson, no, I like him. Goldust and Triple H, that kind of stinks. But the China element of it is not bad. What else is there? What else is there, everybody? You just throw Prince Ikea in this again. Look, man, we're in 97. There's not a lot of bad stuff. I gotta say, unless I'm forgetting something. By the way, join the Discord. Send me a DM if there's anything I'm missing. I think maybe we'll leave it at Nick Patrick and Randy Anderson for now. But as of this moment, not a lot of bad stuff happening. You could throw the women's division. I don't think it's significant enough, though, to really overtake that. I don't know. We'll leave it as Nick Patrick, Randy Anderson. So WCW maintains those -3 points. Worst segment of the year, Miss NWO. Again, I'm inclined to just gray this out because nothing is ever gonna be worse than that, I don't think. So, yeah. So with that, no changes there. We got our new score, everybody. As of now, WCW is in the lead with 41 points. My God, what a swing. ECW in second with 10. WWF with 7 points. So you could see how quickly these points swing. So while it seems that WCW is firmly in the lead, you never know what can happen. We have Barely Legal coming up. We got a lot of good stuff coming up down the pipe in this timeline. So make sure to keep your eye on this. Stay abreast of the situation because a lot of big stuff happening. But that's about all Daddy has for you guys today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Love you. Can't wait to see what 2025 has in store for the Apron Bump. We got a lot of good wrestling to talk about. Might do some live stuff this year. I know I've kind of always said it. I want live elements to be a bigger part of the Apron Bump, whether it's streaming old video games, perhaps. I got WCW NWO Revenge on the 64. I got WWF SmackDown 2, and who knows what else I'll get my hands on. So make sure I think maybe TikTok, maybe we'll do like a practice run there, but I'll probably do it on Facebook or not Facebook, what the fuck? YouTube. Do I even still have a Facebook? I think I do. YouTube, Twitch. I'll be live streaming a lot this year. So I promise. Just make sure you're subscribed. Like, review, rate, review, finger in my belly button, do all those things. And with that, I'll love you. I'll leave you. Appreciate you guys. Big ol' smooches. Mwah, mwah. I'm hard.
The hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.